Welcome back to r/Neighbors from Hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled "Neighbor is Obsessed with Parking Spot." So I moved into this apartment a couple years ago, and honestly, I thought I had hit the jackpot on location. My apartment is situated in such a way that I don't share a wall with anyone else, I only have a direct neighbor upstairs. The day I moved in, the lady upstairs stepped outside and said, "Welcome." And that was literally the only time she has spoken to me since. Let's get into just how crazy this lady is. It is important to note that we do not have assigned parking. It is first come first served, and in general I just park in the closest available spot to my home. Sometimes that is a bit of a walk, but sometimes I get that prized spot that is right out in front of my house. Anyway, for a while some time ago I got really lucky and was able to get that first spot repeatedly for over a week. I wasn't just leaving my car parked there, I would get up, go to work, come home 8 to 10 hours later and the spot would be available. What luck, you might be thinking, but the lady upstairs was not happy. I was doing the dishes one day with my window opened when I heard her talking to her adult, I think autistic son, saying that
"The rude people in my apartment number are so rude. Do you hear me? Rude. This place has gone downhill since they moved in."
Now, I'm a sensitive guy, I try to be nice to everyone, and just knowing that somebody doesn't like me hurts me a bit, but I let it go. I could not think of any reason why she would find me rude, because I tend to keep to myself. It is just me and my disabled roommate living here, and we are both quiet and clean. Some weeks later there was a knock at my door. My roommate answered as I was at work, and it was another tenant who asked if we could unlock the laundry room because it was locked early and he needed his clothes. My roommate said that we don't have any connection to the front office, so we cannot help, but our upstairs neighbor keeps it clean, so maybe she was the one that locked it. He thanked her and presumably went to talk to the neighbor. The next morning I woke up with a note on my car saying something to the effect of,
"Don't ever give your address away again. We are private citizens and deserve our property. Also, you have no right to monopolize the first 2 parking spots."
I was taken aback. At the time I didn't even know about our visitor the night before, but it all made sense once I heard from my roommate. I just wrote it off and moved on because I didn't want to rock the boat and just wanted to live in peace. It was around this time I started getting ding-dong ditched. I cannot prove it, but I have a sneaking suspicion it was the son of my neighbor doing it. Later my car was vandalized, the rear window scratched aggressively in the corner. Again, I can't prove who did it, but I have my suspicions. At some point I began noticing that if I was parked in the first spot, my neighbors would stomp all night. I spoke to another neighbor nearby and casually mentioned that the woman upstairs seemed to not like me very much. She immediately said, "Oh, definitely." I asked if she had any idea why, and she said, "Because you always take her parking spot." I could not believe it, all this over a rectangle of concrete. Eventually, I got another note on my car saying the same thing,
"Stop taking the first 2 parking spots. Other people like them too."
I was actually furious this time. I had changed shifts at work and rarely got to park in that same parking lot, let alone the first 2 spaces. It was probably my first time parked there in weeks. I took the note straight to the front office and explained what was going on. The manager then explained to me that it is first come first served, which I already knew, so this should not be a problem. She promised to talk to her about it. The next day I heard my neighbor complaining loudly that the first spot is not a disabled spot, it is not, and I don't have any God-given right to it. And then she repeated several times so her son understood that
fat is not a handicap.
Now, I'm a bigger guy, but I've never claimed to be handicapped, nor do I require any additional assistance. I can only imagine that the manager told her to back off because my roommate is disabled or because I am big and don't want the extra exercise. Either way, I was annoyed. I went outside and could hear that my neighbor was doing the dishes with her window open. I let my emotions get the better of me and shouted something like, "I never said it was, witch! Leave me alone!" I heard her drop a dish or something and her window slammed shut. Since that day, I have not gotten any new notes, but trash will be on my doormat, glass or rocks under my tires, and most recently, my tires are framed with twigs. I can only imagine this is to mark that I haven't moved my car in so many days, or something like the way police do with chalk. I'm not really sure what to do, but this lady seems unstable enough that I worry what she is capable of. Thankfully, I am moving in the next couple months, so I won't have to deal with her or her son ever again. And guys, judging by the lack of any further update posts from the OP, we can just assume that OP did successfully move out and nothing else happened. In addition, if you have watched until here, I would be really grateful if you could post some star emojis in the comments and maybe even like the video if you want to go the extra mile. Thank you so much for your support, it really means the world to me. And the next one is titled, "Kill my dog, walk home forever." I had this cabin in the woods high up on the mountainside. When I bought the property, we were able to buy all the land near the cabin except for one parcel. The previous owner of the entire set of properties had a spoiled son who liked to get drunk and gamble away everything he earned, so we got all but one parcel. He managed to scrape up enough cash to get one parcel right below our cabin. His parcel was entirely surrounded by mine. There is a road going up and over the mountain that first passes by the cabin and continues on through his parcel, finally ending at a pond below that. And by the way guys, I just noticed that parcel in this case obviously has nothing to do with getting mail, but instead I guess it means a piece of land or something like that. Anyway, when he decided to build on the parcel, I granted him an easement for power, water and road access, which I had my lawyer write up because I was busy in the city. I was trying to be a good neighbor. I only went up on weekends, so I didn't have too many problems. We managed just fine for a few years. I didn't like him much, but we kept to ourselves, though he had a weird habit of sneering at me when he drove by in his girlfriend's car. The police came out a few times because he was fighting with his girlfriend, but he left me alone until one day during a particularly hot August. His girlfriends left him, but he won at the tracks. He bought a new truck, he liked his new truck, he drove his new truck past my cabin all weekend long, back and forth, non-stop. I was trying to get the last part of a rather difficult book finished and did not need a Mario Andretti wannabe tearing up my peace of mind. But it was a private road, so any traffic problems had to be settled without the help of law enforcement. I had a sweet cocker spaniel named Mindy who stayed inside most of the time and only went outside to do her business. She was terrified of the big Dodge as he went up and down the mountain, throwing gravel and mud everywhere. When I went outside to tell him to stop, he flipped me off, called me a few choice words and threatened to run me over if I didn't get out of his way. I just shook my head and went inside, resolving to settle his problem with a lawyer instead of fighting him. I did not want to accidentally kill him, he was not a very big guy and all mouth anyways. I figured it was the liquor talking, so I walked Mindy and kept her inside that weekend. I had to wear headphones to tune out his act while living in a cabin in the woods. He was pissed because I bought his father's land, despite the fact that his father left him enough money to buy it several times over. He told my solicitor all of this when he wrote up the easement. My lawyer informed me of this when I contacted him about the dangerous Dodge dirtbag. He continued driving up and down the mountain like a maniac for the next 4 weekends. He did not stop even in the dead of night. He just went on and on and on, and I locked my doors hoping he wasn't so deranged that he would set my cabin on fire. Fortunately, the second weekend my lawyer told me to get video and pictures if possible, but not to confront him lest he cook up a song and dance for his own lawyer. So I set up a camera and a game by the corner of my house about 5 yards from the road. I have groceries delivered once a month to the cabin by the local supermarket in town. The delivery person has instructions to leave the bags on the back porch. I didn't hear her knocking on the 5th weekend, and so she let herself in and put the bags on the kitchen counter. While she was leaving, Mindy slipped outside to do her business but couldn't get back in. I did not hear her barking, but I did hear her yelps when the drunk bastard ran her over. I ran outside and he standing over her cursing Mindy. He would run her over and was taking his twisted frustration out on her while she was dying. So I shoved him away and scooped her up. I then raced into town to see the vet. By the time I got to town she was cold and I knew it was too late. So I limped back home broken-hearted and angry. I took Monday off and buried her beneath an old bay tree. On Tuesday I took the footage and the game camera stills into the city and gave them to my lawyer. The pictures were on film, so it took a couple days to get them developed, but the VCR tape told the whole story. He had seen her beside the cabin and had veered off the road to run her down. The evil grin on Red's face looked demonic. I asked my lawyer if I could sue him. He said I could and we had plenty of evidence to cause him serious harm, but in the meantime he would still be living there and things would only escalate. At the time, dogs were considered property and didn't have anything in the way of rights. Still don't, which is a pity by the way, but I wanted a fight and my lawyer knew that if he didn't throw me a bone, I would go back up that mountain and beat the dirtbag to death with his own wrenched off arm. My lawyer calmed me down and took out the lease agreement. In it was a standard maintenance clause, but there was also a stipulation in the easement that prohibited acts that might disturb the peace and harmony of the owner. It had a quit clause that automatically rescinded his easement should he persist in such acts for a month or more. My lawyer had sent him a letter to the effect the second week and didn't get a reply. The mail was registered and he had to sign for it in town at the post office. I had my lawyer serve him with a quit notice. In that state, a notice to quit an easement doesn't have the same level of difficulty as a notice to quit tenancy, which can drag out for 6 months or more. If you are in violation of an easement rights and are ordered to quit it by the owner, you can appeal, but in the interim you must by law stay off the easement and any utilities passing through can be cut off at the owner's pleasure unless doing so can cause a life-threatening situation. But I did not cut off his water and power right away. We did not start proceedings on the suit until later. He continued to drive on the road after the order to quit, only faster and with more profanity. I got it all on tape, I told him so, and he said he didn't care. He said,
"Ugly dudes like me should just die."
So I decided to stay away until the suit was initiated. So a month later I had workers on the mountain put in a nice gate, solid construction in 3 feet of concrete. I could open and close it with a garage door opener. I had barbed wire fence around the whole property. So the only way in or out was via the gate. I had a pedestrian gate put in beside the road and left that unlocked. It was about a quarter-mile to the cabin and half again that to his own place, a fairly long walk for a raging alcoholic. I got good pictures of him on the game camera that weekend. Number 1, dirtbag driving up to the gate in his big truck, dirtbag trying to jimmy the lock, dirtbag leaving and returning with a hacksaw to try to cut the lock, dirtbag leaving in frustration, dirtbag returning with his truck, dirtbag leaving again, and then dirtbag ramming the gate uphill at full speed. Finally, dirtbag through windshield laying on hood as smashed truck rolls back down the mountain. The gate did not even bend, the truck sure did. He lived, still not as ugly as me, but we cannot get everything we want. 20 odd shots and more than enough proof to show to the judge to get a protection order, and since it was a small town, the same judge was not too pleasant with him when took his last penny during the lawsuit. We even got his parcel and his flea-infested shack. We let him keep his busted up Dodge. And guys, I gotta say, that was just beautiful, beautiful revenge. There's just something about revenge stories, especially when it involves crazy neighbors, that is really satisfying to me. And the next one is titled, "Neighbors chased my boyfriend with a knife when he was a kid, what the hell?" Okay, so my boyfriend told me this story the other day and I could not stop laughing about it. When he was about 7 or 8, he was running around in his cul-de-sac with a few of his friends, ding-dong ditching houses, you know, as kids do. Well, most of the neighbors would just yell at them or laugh or jokingly chase them and then get a Capri Sun or some stuff. You know, because kids are kids. Well, lo and behold, they go up to their neighbor's house across the street from his and they ring his doorbell, and as they start to run, the dad runs outside, knife in hand, screaming that he's going to kill both of them. He caught up to them both right as his mom came outside. She grabbed both boys, socked him in the face as hard as she could and screamed, "What the F is wrong with you effing psycho?" and slammed the door. To this day, that neighbor does not bother them. He does not even look at my boyfriend. He's taller and stronger than that a-hole now, and he's terrified to even walk on their side of the street. Serves him right, right? Some people are absolutely insane. And the next one is titled, "I don't like my neighbor, so I make a couple of phone calls." I am home while taking some time off from my job when, in the wee hours of the night, I hear music. It is loud, it is horrible, and it irritates me. But I put up with it and get a few more hours sleep after I put some earplugs in. After I wake up later that morning, I bring it up with my next door neighbors. They dredge up a tale about this scumbag. We shall call him Dennis. He moved into my neighborhood several months ago. When he moved in, he was the nicest guy, outgoing, social, talking to everybody in sight. That lasted about a week, relevant, and then he defaulted to what seems like his normal behavior. He blasts bad music that penetrates my apartment 50 meters away, most often when the sun goes down and right before it comes up, and the hours in between just to round it off. He has a car and 2 motorcycles parked on the street collecting dirt. Neighbors assume they are non-functional because they have not been moved in 3 months and no one has ever seen them being used. No one can confirm that they were actually driven to their current resting place when he moved in. He has 2 dogs on choke chains. He beats them more often than he feeds them. The next door neighbors can hear the yelping. I have been told that these dogs have caused injury to at least 1 person, if not more. He has people going in and out of his place at all hours, not a problem. The problem is that about half the time, the people who drop by are staggeringly drunk or obnoxious, or both. Dennis himself is a mean drunk, and both neighbors and passers-by have been subjected to his invective on a regular basis. Neighbors have put in multiple complaints, but visits by local government officials to keep the noise down are met with compliance for a few days, and then it is back to whatever he was up to before. Everybody within hearing distance hates him with a passion, but no one says a word to his face. Dennis has never said it outright, and no one has found proof, but everyone suspects he is an entrepreneur of controlled substances. And no one wants to point the finger because he knows who his neighbors are. Told you it was relevant. No way, nobody deals in my neighborhood. I'll not comment on the efficiency or the integrity of our local police force, but these LEOs work and have worked in an environment of temptation and corruption, with those on the bottom rung getting less than $600 a month. That amount figures in a 100% salary increase went into effect just this past January 2018. At the end of the day, they all just want to get back to their families in one piece. PDEA, however, don't give a damn. They will go after anybody, elected officials, organized crime, high rollers. 0 Fs, they are busy as they tend to go after the big fish. The president has given them pretty much carte blanche and he gives 0 Fs too. So I decide to roll the dice. I've had my fair share of time working with law enforcement officers as an EMT, and I once did someone a favor a long time ago. I pull out an old worn card out of my stack of professional contacts. Only one of the numbers is still working, but the person I spoke to gives me an updated number. I call and get in touch with Mr. PDL. He's no longer with PDEA, but he knows someone who still is. We talk for about 30 minutes and then he asks all kinds of questions. When he is satisfied, he tells me he cannot promise anything, then hangs up. Honestly, I don't expect much either. 2 weeks later, I wake up and go on my daily walk to buy some fresh bread down the street when the cute girl working there tells me the cops were all over the place early that morning, just when they were putting in the first batch of yummy in the ovens. I don't make the connection and ask her out again, and she turns me down again. It is now a running joke between us and buy my bread. The following day, next door neighbor knocks on my door and asks whether or not I knew Dennis had been arrested. I shrug and say, nope, can't say I know anything about that. The house stayed empty for a while after, but I just saw a new family moving in today, which reminded me of the entire thing. Honestly, I don't know whether or not my phone call had anything to do with Dennis' arrest, and I'm not about to call anybody in LE up to ask them. I may not have put up with Dennis' douchebaggery for any length of time, but my neighbors certainly have. So I will leave it up to the sub to judge on merit whether this constitutes actual revenge or not, because I may or may not have called a drug raid on my neighbor because I and my other neighbors wanted a peaceful night's sleep. And guys, unfortunately, we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.